What an amazing European election we had in Britain and across Europe. I mean, the success of Nigel Farage's Brexit party is just breathtaking. Within 6 weeks, he announced that he was going to contest these elections. He formed the party and he just stormed the Bastille. He took control of the whole situation and won, what was it, 28, 29 seats. A romping victory. But now we need to go on from that. We've got to ask the question, can Nigel Farage become the Prime Minister? Does he need to become the Prime Minister? We've now got a leadership contest in the Conservative Party. Theresa May, the first victim of Farage. She wouldn't have fallen if Farage hadn't contested those elections. But now that we're going to have this leadership campaign, and I think it's odds on that Boris Johnson will emerge victorious. I can't see any real challenges to him. The question is, can Boris Johnson deliver Brexit? It's going to be extremely difficult. He's going to be the Tory Prime Minister in a Remain Parliament. And within the Tory ranks, there's still around 60 Conservative MPs who are totally committed to the European Union. Probably the stooges of Brussels. Probably in in the pockets of the Brussels bureaucrats, and at every point they're going to sabotage the Leave strategy. And so Johnson, I mean, we've only got a short window here. We've only got to October the 31st. That's when the next deadline date is. Johnson has got to get through. He's got to win the Tory leadership election, establish himself as Prime Minister, and get us to leave on October the 31st. The Tory Remainers and the Remain Parliament, that's Labour, Lib Dem, Plaid Cymru, SNP, rest of them, they're going to try and sabotage this Leave strategy. And it's going to be difficult for Johnson. I mean, you may actually get a coup in the House of Commons, where Johnson is overthrown as Prime Minister and a majority of the MPs elect another Prime Minister without a general election. God knows who that will be. I mean, they might choose someone like Oliver Letwin or, God help us, Yvette Cooper to lead the House and to block any no-deal Brexit. That seems to be their obsession at the moment, to block any no-deal Brexit. And that's what we're going to go for, because it's obvious that the EU are not prepared to renegotiate in any sense. So we're going to have to go for a no-deal Brexit. That's going to have to be Johnson's strategy. Now, if he fails to achieve it, and if there's a coup in Parliament, what can Farage do? I mean, what can any of us do? There doesn't have to be a general election until 2022. Farage has got to start winning by-elections now. He's got to push Brexit out across the political spectrum. There's a by-election, I think it's next Thursday, June the 6th, in Peterborough. Brexit must win that by-election. That needs to be an all-out campaign to get a foothold in the House of Commons. And at some point, we'll have to force a general election, because I'm not confident that Johnson can get a no-deal Brexit. He may do. It'll be the coup of the century. And there's question marks of how really committed to that Johnson is, and how really committed to a no-deal Brexit the Conservative Party is. I mean, as I said, 60 Remainers, but those who want a deal probably number 3 times that many. So, I mean, and then you've got the hostility of the Labour Party and everybody else. It's going to be extremely difficult. Now, Farage has got incredible capital now, political capital, and his success in the European elections. But he's going to have to use that. He's going to have to use it very cleverly. And he's going to have to manoeuvre the situation that he can start to impact the House of Commons through other elections. I mean, we're talking now about local elections, we're talking about parliamentary by-elections, and we're talking about the build-up to a general election. Farage has got to have a ground campaign. He needs 650 candidates across the country. He needs strategies in every single constituency. Now, people say you can't win a general election on with just sort of one policy, Leave. But Brexit now has become so dominant in the political process that I think he can win the general election simply on that issue. Because Brexit has paralysed the whole political life of Britain. It's rendered Parliament basically impotent. Nothing else is happening. Until we resolve this European issue, we are paralysed politically in Britain. And if the whole thing is sabotaged and we end up remaining in the EU, that is going to cause such political distress across our land that it's going to poison the whole political process in this country. I don't think we can remain, because the EU is totally committed to a federalist process, not simply to keep us involved in all their institutions and keep us bankrolling their budget, but they want to encroach more and more upon Britain and turn Britain, right the rest of Europe, into just provinces of the Brussels Empire. So this is a process that we're resisting here. This is a process we want to see overthrown. And there are real substantial issues which underlie it. We want our borders back. We want our money back. We want our sovereignty back. This sovereignty movement, this is so important. We need to achieve that. People realise it instinctively. I mean, the Leave bloc in this country is so committed because we know what's at stake here. Now, ultimately, the question is, can Farage win a general election? Yes is the answer, an emphatic yes. Now, if Johnson is blocked in the House of Commons, the Tory party itself will fracture. The Remainers and the Leavers will go their separate ways. Now, people say this won't happen because the Tory party was created in the 1830s by Robert Peel. It's existed for almost 200 years. It's going to continue ad infinitum. That's not the case. You know, history is there to come to an end. As Henry Ford said, history is bunk. It's the future that matters. And this is so crucial to the future of Britain. Whether we remain a province of the Brussels Empire or we regain our sovereignty and become a nation, a free nation in the world again. And this is bigger than the Conservative Party. It's bigger than the Labour Party. I mean, just as the Conservative Party is on the verge of fracturing into two groups, the Labour Party and its constituency is fracturing all over the place. We've seen the likes of Alistair Campbell's admitting that he voted Liberal Democrat. You see, the Labour constituency, a third of that constituency are the Liberal professionals. They have decided now that Corbyn is not their man. They are committed Remainers and they're switching en masse to the Liberal Democrats. We just saw that in the European elections. And this is going to severely weaken the Labour Party, because the Labour Party is left with two other constituencies, the public sector unions and the Islamic bloc vote. The public sector unions, they can be relied upon, but the working class who they represent cannot be, because the working class know the consequences of remaining in the EU are to their detriment, not only in the form of higher taxes, but in the form of higher and higher immigration, which is undermining their wages and making their living costs so high. The Islamic bloc vote is sort of indifferent to the European question. I think overall, the Muslims would rather leave the EU because it's been a block on Islamic immigration in one sense, because immigration from outside the EU is much stricter, is controlled much more severely than immigration, obviously, movement within the EU. So the Muslims are they're undecided on this issue of remain and leave. So the whole Labour constituency has fallen to pieces. And because Corbyn is such an ineffective leader, he's not giving them a vision for the future. Just like May was unable to give the Tories a vision of the future outside of the EU, Corbyn can't provide a strategy forward for the Labour Party. And he looks rather weak and rather pathetic. And he's boxed into a corner now. And he's impotent. So the Labour Party are not rising as a force to overcome the Tories and to impose their will on the situation. So it's an open goal for Farage. What Farage will need to do is to get the Tory leavers on his side, at least in some sort of arrangement where I'm thinking of the coupon election after the First World War in 1918, when Lloyd George went round giving coupons to who the coalition backed. Farage, we're going to have to give coupons out, letters in a sense, to which candidates he wants in each constituency. It may be a lot of Tory leavers will get the backing of Brexit. There may be a few Labour leavers who get the backing of the Brexit party. And this will enable him to clean up in these different constituencies and to win the general election. And I don't think it's inconceivable that by 2021, 2022, Farage could be in 10 Downing Street, and then we will have someone who's really capable of getting us freedom from the European Union. What a process this is. We voted for freedom in June 2016. It's 3 years ago. This has been a long, drawn-out, protracted process. The reason for that is because Theresa May was a Remainer, and it's a Remain Parliament. They say it's a difficult process to leave the European Union. It's not true. They're making it difficult. It's deliberate. They're trying to stall the process at every juncture. And therefore, we need to really change the Parliament, change the leadership, change the strategy. Can Boris Johnson do that if he wins a Tory leadership? I don't think so. Can Nigel Farage win the general election and then get us leave? I think he can. And I think that's the prospect of the future. That's the big political picture for the future in Britain. Farage in 10 Downing Street. Let's just remind everybody, subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to press the bell so you get notification of our future videos. We're pouring out as many videos as we can at the moment. We want to raise the voice of nationalism in Britain and across Europe. We've got projects in mind, and we're going to need some help to bring these projects to fruition. If you'd like to make a contribution to this channel, there's a PayPal link in the description below. All donations are gladly received and will help towards this.